The third educational module focuses on chapter operations. The pledge process covers a mixture of fraternity information and professional development, but pledges also need to learn about basic chapter operations before being initiated. Through a mock meeting, pledges will learn about parliamentary procedure and the structure of a chapter meeting. Every meeting starts at the opening, so take a moment to teach it to the pledges. Brothers, for what purpose have we gathered? To deliberate, to receive counsel and advice, and to study the teachings of our fraternity so that we may become better leaders. Just as chapter meetings sometimes start off with an educational component, such as a guest speaker, the mock meeting for pledges will start off learning about parliamentary procedure. Understanding the basics of Parley Pro can help make a meeting run smoothly, so take some time to discuss how to use Parley Pro and its role in a chapter, as well as the types of motions, methods of voting, and the number of votes required for different motions. A few chapter officers should still introduce themselves during this meeting, taking the place of officer reports. Instead of having them dive straight into their role, take a moment to talk about the role officer reports play in a chapter meeting and give an example of what they might say. During what would be committee reports, pledges will have the chance to look at different chapter committees through a risk reduction lens and real situations they might find themselves in. After explaining the purpose of committee reports and the different committees in the chapter, break the pledge class up into groups to look at 3 different scenarios. Each group will have time to review the scenario and present a proposed solution for how they would handle it if they were a member. After the groups share about the scenario, fraternity educator will share the fraternity's recommended solution. This activity is not meant to find the right answer, but to allow pledges to exercise their decision-making skills and start considering the fraternity's risk management policies. We want them to understand how the policies apply to different situations and how to make positive decisions. After committee reports comes old business. Briefly talk about some examples of a motion that could be tabled and revisited. Then, use this as an opportunity to check in with the pledges on how they're feeling about the process. What concerns do they have about the assignments? What have they gained and reflected on from the educational modules? Touch base on whatever it is that they want to revisit. Following old business comes new business. Again, briefly talk about some examples of a motion that could be presented, and then move on to discussing the Court of Honor presentation. While it has been previously mentioned, now is when they will receive their groups and learn more about the project itself. Review the different requirements and consider having a few examples from past pledge classes to share. Give out the group assignments and recommend they start to touch base after the module to elect their project lead and to start planning. The last thing in a meeting is announcements, so share any new servant leadership submissions and remind the pledges to continue studying for the fraternal exam, to touch base with their Court of Honor presentation groups, and continue working on their informational interview and resume. Then you can adjourn the meeting. For additional questions, contact your chapter educational resource coordinator or regional management team.